Hey guys, I hope you all are doing well out there. I'm going to go ahead and turn your attention right off the bat here to this box. This box is an exact replica, so it's the same size as a box that an enslaved person mailed himself in from the south to the north to freedom. Okay, and real quick, I'm just going to remind you guys that right now we are focusing on how did enslaved people respond to the oppression of slavery that they experienced, right? And so one way, and that's today's focus, is going to be escaping, right? Some were able to come up with a plan, and we'll talk a little bit later about some of the other, things that went into it, and actually were able to escape and get to the north. And so this particular person who mailed himself, his name was Henry Brown. He was later on known as Henry Box Brown. Looks like my cat is thinking about trying to get into the box. And I just want you to think a little bit about what that experience must have been like. Okay, this box is 3 feet long, 2 feet wide, and 2 feet 8 inches deep. And Henry, he was 5'8", 200 pounds. So I'm a little taller than Henry, but I can tell you, even if I were closer to 5'8", I can imagine it was still incredibly uncomfortable to put yourself inside this box. Okay. And then I want you to think about, he only had 4 things. He had a biscuit to eat, he had a pouch of water to drink, a hat to fan himself with so he didn't get too hot, and then he had a drill if he needed to add air holes at different points. Okay, and this lid over here was actually put on and he was sealed in. Okay, he was in this box for 27 hours as he was being shipped from the south to the north. So I just want you to try to imagine getting in here and being in this space with the lid shut for 27 hours. Really, really difficult, uncomfortable stuff. But when you think about the fact of what he was experiencing as an enslaved person, it makes sense why he'd be willing to sacrifice, that lack of comfort for that period of time if he thought he had a good chance of getting free. Okay. And actually, my dad wrote a book about Henry Box Brown called The Disappearing Man. It's a very good book. So if this topic interests you, I'm going to make a shameless plug here and recommend that you check that book out. We're not going to use it for the lesson today because it's like a full-sized historical novel, and I need something short so we can do it all in one day. But I recommend that you look into it if it intrigues you. Okay. I want us to have a little bit of background, though, on escapes before we go back to learning more about Henry Brown, which is going to be the main focus of your assignment. But let's start with the Underground Railroad, okay? A term you've probably heard before, you might know something about. So let's go ahead and check with our prior knowledge here. I want you to go ahead and pause the video and jot down in your notebook, in your social studies notebook, what you know about the Underground Railroad. Okay, go ahead and pause the video and do that now. Okay, I'm going to assume that you have done that, and I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. So hopefully you had something along the lines of what I have here. It says, the Underground Railroad is a network of secret routes and safe houses used to help enslaved people escape to the north. So right off the bat, let's just make it clear, it was not a literal railroad, no trains involved, okay? That's a metaphor for the fact that it was like a pathway that they needed to take to get home, okay? Or to get to freedom, I should say. And so, there's these routes that, remember we talked about songs yesterday, oftentimes songs had codes in them so they know what route to follow that would get them to one safe house where somebody would protect them. And then the next night they would travel to the next safe house and eventually all the way to freedom. So that's a way a lot of enslaved people escaped, was by following the Underground Railroad. And if you're not sure why they needed to get from the south to the north, I just put a little detail under that says, by 1804, all northern states had made slavery illegal. So that was the whole thing, that if you could get to the north, you could be protected and be free. Now we'll talk in our Civil War unit leading up to that there was a law later passed that complicated that. But for now, just think south, slavery is still legal. North, slavery illegal. They wanted to get to the north. Okay. Now, I do want to just touch on one more figure who's super important when you talk about escapes. And her name is Harriet Tubman. And that's a picture of her. Hopefully you can see that from here. And so just some facts about her. I'll probably have to cover up the picture to get those in. Is that she herself escaped to freedom through the Underground Railroad in 1849. But incredibly, she was willing to go back and help other people escape after that, which is a great risk once she's finally gotten her own freedom. But she believed in it so much. And so she came back and helped guide hundreds of people and families up north through the Underground Railroad to freedom. And so she was, people who helped lead were referred to as conductors. Again, it's like a metaphor, like the conductor of a train. And she's considered the most famous conductor of the Underground Railroad because she was just so successful and got so many people out. And you may be familiar with a movie that came out recently called Harriet. That's about her. I actually have not seen it yet, so I do need to check that out, but I've heard good things. Okay, so for your assignment then, we're gonna focus on Henry Box Brown for that. And what the assignment's gonna be is you're going to do what's called a picture summary, okay? So for the picture summary, you are going to listen to, I can't remember the author's name off the top of my head, unfortunately, but the author of this book called Henry's Freedom Box. She is going to read her book out loud. So it's basically a shortened version of Henry's story. And at the end, I want you to pick out what you think are the 4 most important events from Henry's story. And I want you to draw a picture of those 4 events and just have like a sentence with each one that just kind of makes it clear what you're doing. So by the end, you have sort of a good summary of what his story is about with a picture for each part and a little description. So just to kind of show you how that works, I did a picture summary on Venture Smith, an individual I talked about 2 classes ago, I believe, who actually purchased his own freedom and then later purchased his family's freedom. And it's probably a good thing that you can see here that I'm not a very good artist. And so I want you to try your best, but it's okay if you're not the most talented artist. What I'm looking for is just good event choices. And I'm just looking to see that you're trying to put detail in. The best of whatever your skill has, you're trying to add the key details into your pictures. Okay, and I do want to make sure I really do stress, when I say the 4 most important events, that means it should be through the whole story. Okay, sometimes students want to just pick the 4 events early on and not go any further. That's not a good summary because you didn't actually tell me the 4 most important events from his whole experience. So I just want to make sure that's clear. Okay, so just looking at my example here, the first event I thought was important was when Venture Smith was captured and enslaved, okay? And so I drew a picture of that. I wasn't sure if it was clear that this person was Smith, so I just put his name over it. You can put little things like that to make it clear. This is somebody trying to throw a net on him. Remember, he's a prince, so I tried to put some extra details. I put the crown, that's supposed to be his father. And then I put just kind of like a royal robe on him to show that he's a prince. And I put a little description that said, Smith is captured in West Africa and enslaved, okay? So then I did a second one about him being in Rhode Island when he begins performing overwork for money, right? That's the extra work that an enslaved person can do to make some actual money. So obviously normally they don't get paid. And so again, I put some symbols that helped you out. I put some money over this guy's head to show that he was going to pay Smith for the work Smith was doing. He was cutting logs, and I didn't think the sweat I drew was very good. So I wrote a little note there saying that that's sweat, so it's clear. So again, I'm just trying to make things clear. Third event, I thought it was super important, of course, that he eventually was successful and he bought his freedom. So here's that scene of him buying his freedom. I did show his family separate from him though, because they were not able to be free at first. And the wife is crying and she says goodbye, and those are his 2 kids. But the last important event, in my opinion, is that when he got free, he worked even harder and earned enough money to buy their freedom too. So this is him coming back and buying their freedom. And that's his wife smiling and the 2 kids, and they're starting to come towards him. So anyway, again, just stressing the main point here. Doesn't have to be the most perfect artistic quality, but do notice how I really thought out the 4 events very carefully that were the most important ones through the whole story. And notice how I did really try to put enough little details in each picture that it got the scene across. Okay, so let's see. The last couple things I want to go over is, again, I'll just make it clear. There's a video attached that has the read aloud where she's going to read the story out loud. So watch that video. I will say, remember we talked about person first language. She doesn't use person first language, so just a heads up there. And then when you do your summary, you're going to have to draw it on a piece of paper, right? And then you're going to have to take a picture of it. So you can either use your Chromebook webcam and hold it up to it and take that picture, and then you can just attach it to the assignment. Or if you're at home, you can use your phone and then save that picture to your phone and then upload it that way. Either way, you're going to have to find a way to attach it once it's a file. So the last thing is, this is not the assignment you're doing. This is an assignment I had to do for the school, but just so you can see it from a student viewpoint. You're not going to see anything up here listed under your work because I'm not attaching an assignment for you to do there. I need you to do it on your own paper and submit it. So once you have your pictures saved, I recommend saving it to Google Classroom because you can just hit add or create and you can go right to Google Classroom, or sorry, right to Google Drive. Have it saved in your Google Drive is what I mean. And then you can just upload it from there onto the assignment. Or if you just like save it to your desktop, you can just go to file and find it. But again, I think the simplest is just to save it to your Google Drive and upload it there, okay? So all you're gonna turn in is that picture. You just have to make sure to do your picture summary, take a picture of it, and then go to the assignment, click add or create, and click on the file. As always, if you have questions as you're working on this, feel free to send me a message on Google Classroom. And good luck. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with. All right, see you guys.